All right, so let's just say the Spurs are going to make a trade. Who do you want them to go chase, Giannis or KD?
You are Locked On Spurs, your daily San Antonio Spurs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Happy Friday. Welcome back to Locked On Spurs. We're doing the Locked On NBA Network. I'm your host, Jeff Garcia, Spurs writer for Kings 5 San Antonio. Glad to have y'all back. Hope you're having a great day. TGIF, everybody. It was a short work week, right? Wasn't it? That was fun. So you get to the weekend a little bit earlier, and we're going to get you through it right here on Locked On Spurs. Be sure to subscribe to Locked On Spurs wherever you get your favorite podcast, iTunes, Spotify, Kings 5 Plus app. You know where to go. Make sure to go subscribe ASAP. By the way, when you're at the Locked On Spurs YouTube page, leave a comment. We'll read it in a future episode of Locked On Spurs. So what are we talking about today? As you can see on your screen, we're going to have a kind of a what-if scenario. So what if the Spurs say, you know what, all right, fine, let's do this. Let's swing for the fences. Let's go bring in Giannis. Let's go chase KD, but you only got to pick one. So we're going to kind of look at that. Who would be the better player to trade for? Giannis? KD? We're just start off with Giannis. Kind of look at the pros, a little bit of the cons, and the same thing for KD, and then kind of come up with a final verdict here. Unfortunately, we're on a time limit here, so we can't get to all the cons and all the pros, but we'll try to hit on a few of each. And then supposedly the Nets are wanting Dylan Harper / the number 2 pick. Yeah, what's that about? We're going to discuss that and more. Just going to bring in our guest. He is back, everybody, to wrap up the week. Mr. Rudy Campos of Sweep the League. Make sure to follow him on TikTok. Look at that. At Sweep the League. We have Sweep the League Radio. So he's now moving on to where the cool kids are now, apparently, I guess. But as always, we got to go to bring him in properly.
Your intro music. The only person on Locked On Network probably that gets it, right?
Yeah, I think you are the only one. At least on Locked On Spurs, by the way. Wasn't it mentioned to you? So I hear you're an early bird. You're up sometimes at 5, 6 in the morning. That's crazy.
Yeah, my work day starts pretty early, and then my dad life ends the night very late. So I'm 40 plus years old, but I'm still living the high school life. Just a sleep schedule, man.
Man, if I don't get at minimum 7 or close to 7 hours, I'm like just a wreck the next day. So that's I'm ready, old man. But again, Rudy, we appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to hop on here with us at Locked On Spurs. Again, everybody, he is with Sweep the League. He also has a show on YouTube. We'll talk about that in just a few seconds. So, Rudy, you heard the scenario to start off the show. We're going to dive into the what-if world. What if the Spurs say, screw it. Let's make a deal. Let's swing for the fences. Let's go for KD. Let's go for Giannis. We got to pick one of them. And it's not out of the realm possibility. Those two names have been popping late and connected to San Antonio. ESPN Sharani, I mentioned, the Spurs and KD, there was mutual interest. Giannis, well, everybody's talking about him landing in San Antonio. Pick an outlet, major sports media outlet, they're talking about Giannis and the Spurs. So, again, this is not uncommon to hear about. But if we're going to do it, if the Spurs are going to say, you know what, let's put something together, let's see if Milwaukee will buy it or Phoenix will buy it, what would that look like? Let's start off with Giannis. So let's just say the Spurs say, all right, let's bring in the Greek freak here. Let's pair him up with Wemby. Let's do this. All right, so let's look at the pros. So I got a couple pros here. Again, we can't get into all of them. We're short on time here, so we'll pick a couple of them. My first 2 pros, Rudy, is this. Instant connection. It's going to be instant. That Wemby-Giannis pairing is going to be devastating. You got Wemby. He's an up-and-coming megastar in this league. Giannis, who is already an established champion, all-star, a name. He's just in his prime peak of his years. This could vault the Spurs into not even just the Western Conference Finals, title contention almost ASAP, almost immediately. 30.4 points per game last season for Giannis, close to 12 rebounds per game. We know what a Wemby can do, averaging those double figures, hitting those threes, being just a menace on defense, protecting the rim. These two guys have unique skill sets that will just blend just like that in the snap of a finger. I think what you do here is you got a couple players, Rudy, that are just going to be a formidable duo, perhaps the best duo in the NBA. You got to go for it. That instant connection will vault the Spurs out of the rebuild and into playoff contention / NBA title contention. My second pro, Rudy, is this. You're maximizing Wemby's start of his career. He's not languishing in another down season. He's not making the playoffs. He says he wants to win. He wants to win an NBA title. You got to make the franchise guy happy. What better way to do that than with bringing in Giannis? I think that helps as well for a long-term future for Wemby. Let's just say Giannis is short-term, but nevertheless, it shows to Wemby that the Spurs are willing to bring in a megastar like Giannis. Just the core of him and Giannis not only will be just formidable on the court, but off the court as well, attracting solid free agents to build around those two guys. I got those two reasons, my big reasons why the Spurs should do it. Maximizing Wemby's window and then instant connection. Your thoughts?
So I like both of those reasons. Maximizing Wemby's window is definitely huge. I mean, you're talking about a guy who, is already the centerpiece for the San Antonio Spurs, and giving him a two-time NBA MVP, perennial all-star, one of the faces of the league, if you want to per se, always in the top 3 when it comes to MVP candidates year in, year out. That's just going to help when we grow even more. It bolts the Spurs up into definitely in the playoff contention, because then you're talking about a pretty massive big 3 with Fox, Antetokounmpo, and Victor Wembanyama. So the sky's the limit with that kind of trio there. You're also talking about a guy who's averaging 30 points, 30 plus points the last 3 years or 4 years in Milwaukee. Double, he's averaging 11 rebounds just about every year for the past 4 or 5 years. So again, you're getting a dominant player when it comes to Giannis Antetokounmpo. For me, the biggest thing that I see is that your already defensive-minded young Spurs team becomes that much better, and you're probably looking at one of the top 3 defensive teams in the NBA, something that Spurs culture knows as a reason for them winning 5 NBA titles was because of their defensive presence. Guys like Antetokounmpo and Victor Wembanyama protecting the paint, able to guard on the perimeter. Again, it puts them into catapults them into the top 3 on the defensive side of the ball. That's the massive part for Giannis. Also, it's the veteran leadership and also the playoff experience that he brings. I mean, he's already talking about a guy who's won an NBA title at his age, at 30 years old, I believe. So, I mean, there's so many positives with Giannis, but let's not forget there are also some negatives to it.
Yeah, there are. And again, we wish to get into all the positives and all the negatives, but just real quick, other positives, the Spurs do have enough to pony up any sticker price and pay it for Milwaukee. More on that in just a bit. And of course, just Giannis's fit, not just with Wemby, but with an elite guard like a Fox or Castle or possibly Harper. He's done that in Milwaukee with Dame Lillard. We'll see if he'll likely do that again with those guys. So again, a lot of positive, but as Rudy, you mentioned, there are some negatives. The big one for me is just the sticker price. It's probably going to cost the Spurs a lot. And that could possibly be Harper / with the number 2 pick, the number 14 pick, and possibly Steph Castle. They're probably going to want some draft picks, that being Milwaukee. Milwaukee's going to demand a lot. And although the Spurs can do that, you're looking at a cost hit. You're looking at a roster reduction. You're looking at possibly mortgaging the future a little bit with all the draft picks they got. And you don't know how Giannis and Wemby are going to really turn out. On paper, it looks good, but it may be an issue. So that's a huge sticker price they're going to have to likely pay. You could definitely hear Milwaukee saying, okay, give us the number 2 pick, and we're going to possibly want Castle as well. That already, I'm like, whoa, calm down. Let's relax a bit.
That's a no.
Yeah, I'm ready to pump the brakes a bit. So, and here's the thing, too. Yes, Giannis is in his peak years, but he'll have a medium short life in San Antonio, not near a short life, but he won't be there for maybe a longer haul as perhaps Wemby will be obviously in San Antonio. So my first concern is just the cost and just the gutting of the roster if that happens. Other thing too, and I kind of alluded to it, is just, again, that unproven chemistry. We don't know how it's going to work. Giannis is the man in Milwaukee. What if he wants to be the man in San Antonio? This is Wemby's team, not Giannis's team. How will that fit? Now, Sure, you can point to the fact that he coexisted with Dame Lillard. But again, Dame was ready, he's ready at the back end of his career. So perhaps he's going to defer to Giannis. But again, this is Wemby. They play almost the same position. They're going to want to, have touches. It's not just Wemby's going to want the ball, but it's also Fox, Castle, and/or Harper. And of course, there's Giannis. So for me, it's a lot of unproven chemistry, not just with the Wemby and Giannis, but the team, the ripple effects on that, and the sticker price. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, you brought up the sticker price, and I'll get to that in a second. My glaring negative before I get into that is the fact that you're not answering one of the biggest needs for the Spurs, and that's shooting. I mean, Giannis is not a great shooter at all. 28% career 3-point shooter. And, he does shoot about 55% from the field, but a lot of that is dunks and layups, put back, stuff like that. So you're not answering the shooting need for the Spurs. And you're going to, like you said, more than likely it's going to be either Stephon Castle or the number 2 pick for Giannis. It won't be both. There's no way the Spurs ultimately give up both. They don't have Nico Harrison running that show right there. So, but the thing is that you're going to need shooting. So I think if you're able to trade Dylan Harper for Giannis Antetokounmpo, Stephon Castle isn't exactly a knockdown shooter just yet. I mean, he is improving. So you look at last year's Spurs teams, you had not a lot of shooters. Harrison Barnes is a great shooter. He's still on the team, but Devin Vassell is kind of, if here and there. And Keldon can knock down the three, can knock down some jumpers, but he goes cold for a while. So shooting is the biggest factor. You're going to see a lot of zone defenses when it comes to the San Antonio Spurs, but you hit on something, and that is the price tag. Now, where you hit on the draft assets and the trade assets to get him, I'm going to hit on something else. Giannis is still in his prime to where he's going to command another max deal. Now, think about this. You've got Giannis, you'll have to max. De'Aaron Fox, I think, is about to get his max. Victor's coming up for his max. You'll have 3 max guys on the team with the intention of still trying to sign either Dylan Harper when he's ready for a max or Stephon Castle. So you're going like, okay, we've got, 3 Porsches, possibly 4 in the garage, but we're going to have to get a couple of bicycles on the bench side of things. So that, to me, maxing out a player like Giannis, you do it no matter what. But again, it's the cost. Somebody's going to have to go eventually, or you're going to have 4 max deals in the long run, which for San Antonio that doesn't like to pony up a whole lot of money, that is asking a lot of them.
Yeah. Historically, this is a team that doesn't really splurge like your Knicks or your Lakers or your Warriors.
Yeah.
It's not, and then, sure, Michael Dell's on board, has some Dell money there, but he hasn't really been there yet to see, well, not just him, but the rest of the ownership group, if they can fork over a lot of money to keep this team around. Now, if they want to win in the very, very short term, then sure, go for it. You're likely going to have either a deep playoff run, maybe an NBA Finals appearance and or a title. But for a long haul, I think that might be the undoing of this. Is just the financial side of things. And now we have the aprons and this and that, and could happen in Boston. The ownership left Boston, right? Then they just dumped to get out. They had to pay, so they left in a hurry.
And they want to break it up in Boston. Real quick, you got to think. A lot of people point to Stephon Castle. A lot of people point to Dylan Harper. I don't want to do this because I advocated, and here at Sweep we called this, last year before the season even started. Last year we called De'Aaron Fox come to San Antonio because we had a little insider, obviously, with Derek Irvin. But with De'Aaron Fox San Antonio, people forget that the chance of them trading Stephon or Dylan Harper are great when it comes to Giannis. But if you're a Spurs front office, you might dangle De'Aaron Fox instead, because then your backcourt could be Harper and Castle.
Yeah.
And then the money works because you got 2 max deals. So, I mean, I'm not saying you do that because I would rather have De'Aaron in San Antonio, but if some front office guy in the Spurs says this is what needs to happen, I mean, it could be thrown out there. Let's just say I'm not throwing it out there, but it's more of the idea of keeping a younger backcourt and a more athletic, 2-1-2 guy and Harper and Castle playing next to Giannis and Victor.
Yeah.
But again, we don't know what's going to happen. It's just a lot of max deals, man.
Exactly right. So those are some pros and cons if the Spurs were to trade for Giannis. But what about Kevin Durant? We're going to talk about that coming up next. We're here on Locked On Spurs, joined by Rudy Campos. He is on TikTok at Sweep the League Radio. You want to follow that account ASAP. But first, I want to talk to you about DoorDash. NBA fans, you know what time it is. Playoff season means big performances and even bigger rewards. DoorDash is bringing you the heat with a slam dunk deal for Dash Pass members during the 2025 NBA playoffs. It's called They Swoosh, You Score. Anytime a player drops 50 points or more in a playoff game, Dash Pass members can score themselves a free 3-piece crispy tender combo from Wingstop the very next day. You just place an order, $20 or more. Use code Wingstop50 at checkout, and that combo is yours. Crispy, delicious, totally free. Offer is going to be valid noon to midnight the next day after the game. Terms apply. Keep that in mind. So, yeah, I mean, look, you ever looked at delivery fees and thought, okay, there's got to be a better way? With Dash Pass, you get $0 in delivery fees and exclusive perks like this one. How much money could you save over a season? That could be quite a lot of cash there. So here's the play. Sign up for Dash Pass to unlock this and more exclusive deals all season long. When a player scores 50 points or more in a playoff game, Dash Pass members can grab themselves a free 3-piece crispy tender combo from Wingstop the next day with a $20 plus order and code Wingstop50. That's Dash Pass. Your door to more savings, more flavor, and more ways to win. Terms apply. And we're back right here on Locked On Spurs, joined by Rudy Campos of Sweep the League. He is on X at Sweep the League, as well as on TikTok. You see it on your screen right now. Sweep the League Radio. Do that right now. So we're talking about a what-if world. What if the Spurs were to decide to, screw it. Let's go for broke. Let's trade for either Giannis or KD. Now, we talked about Giannis. Now we're going to talk about KD now. So, again, another player that has been linked to the Spurs, not just this offseason, but in years past. This is not new if you're a San Antonio Spurs fan. We've heard KD to San Antonio numerous times. Here we go again. So, same thing. Again, we can't get into all the pros and cons because of the time situation, but we can highlight some of the good and the bad. So, the first thing I think that is obvious, Rudy, we're talking about the scoring and the experience. Not just scoring. This is top shelf scoring from KD. Despite his age, 30 plus years old, he is still putting up numbers. A 14-time All-Star, 2014 MVP, NBA champion, 27.1 points per game during last season, I believe, with Phoenix. So, again, putting up the numbers still. He can score at 3 levels. Free throws, at the rim, mid-range, and keep on going yet. The 3-shot, the long 2-shot. He is just a legitimate offensive threat that could help Wemby on that offensive end, take the pressure off Wemby trying to do it all. You got that outside, that threat, that offensive threat, coupled with Wemby's defensiveness. Yeah, that's, again, another solid 1-2 punch. Throw in a De'Aaron Fox, throw in a Steph Castle, pick one. It's still going to work. That's a core you can build in the short term. Other thing, too, is just, again, I want to talk about trade and what the sticker price could be. It won't be as hefty as it would be for Giannis. Giannis, you get it. That's a generational player. They're going to want a lot of in return. Phoenix is in desperation mode. It's not working in Phoenix. They're probably going to ask for a package, but it won't be as pricey as a Giannis would be. So you're looking at not a gutting of the roster, not a mortgage into the future. It'll be a solid package, but again, not as heavy as one you have to do for Giannis. So you got draft capital. The Spurs have 36 picks over the next 7 years, something like that, something ridiculous. So they that route in a Phoenix that may want to rebuild. So if you're Phoenix, you're looking at San Antonio as that's the team that has the draft capital. That's the team you need to talk with so we can get these draft picks, get back in the lottery, and start this rebuild process in Phoenix. They got the number 2 and 14 picks this coming draft, so there's that as well. So I think all in all, a trading partner with Phoenix and vice versa, Phoenix, San Antonio, will be an easier pill to swallow. You'll probably have to lose a guy like Keldon or Jeremy or Devin in the process. But again, you're not looking at a steep price tag as you would for Giannis. So this Durant Spurs draft, trade chatter continues. Those are my two things that I like with Kevin Durant. Just a lesser sticker price and that offensive impact is going to make him San Antonio. Your thoughts?
Yeah, the biggest thing that comes to mind is the scoring. And again, when we talked about Giannis, one of the negatives was that he couldn't shoot. Well, this is the positive with Kevin Durant. You're talking about a career, of almost 40% 3-point shooter. He's at 39% right now for his career, but a game-changing type of player when it comes to scoring. The mid-range game is there, can get to the basket, gets to the free throw line pretty consistently, shooting about 88% for his career from the 3-point ring. I mean, from the free throw line. What more can you talk about? The other than the fact that, maybe the injury bug gets him from time to time, but that's what it feels like. But let's be real. I mean, he's only had a couple of seasons, I think 3 to be max, that he's played under 60 games for his season. So not a big deal. I love Kevin Durant scoring. It's instant offense. It's going to catapult them. Again, bolster their lineup up to maybe playoff positioning. I mean, I think they can make the playoffs with Kevin Durant. And again, the price tag isn't so bad, like you said. I think this time around, it would take probably the 14th pick in this year's draft, maybe a first in a couple of years, and a first, a few years after that. So you're not going to have to give up a whole lot when it comes to him. Phoenix kind of maybe wants to start a rebuild. So again, maybe a guy like you said, Jeremy, Devin Vassell going that way. There's a lot more positives on Kevin Durant coming because of the offensive firepower, and that is huge. Like, again, you needed shooting for the Spurs. That's something that they needed. They needed scoring. Kevin Durant instantly provides that. But like we mentioned before, so many positives, you can't get to them, but you got to hit the negatives, Jeff.
Yeah, we definitely have to hit the negatives. The first negative, too, is his age. Again, I wish I was still 37. I'll take it right now. But again, for NBA standards, that's pretty getting up there already. 37 years old. Just how much more does he have in the tank? And even if the trade package for Phoenix isn't as bad as it would be for Giannis, it's still going to be a little bit of a sting, nevertheless. So are you willing to give up promising good young players like a Sohan, Keldon, or Vassell, or whoever, in exchange for a guy who may not be here more than maybe a couple of years, depending on where his radar is when it's coming to his continued NBA play. So for me, again, the age is a big thing. Just how long will he be with the Spurs? So there's that. Giannis gives you a few more years than Kevin Durant. So there's that. Keep that in mind. Other thing too, again, and I go back to this, is just again the chemistry. Maybe the chemistry. I don't know where the slot is, a negative or a positive. So I'm putting the negative side just because again it's uncertain. But again, on the positive side, though, Kevin Durant has already proven that he can play with the big dogs on the team. He's played with a Steph Curry, a Klay Thompson, a Draymond Green, and took a role and he netted him a title. I think in this situation, sure, the chemistry might be a concern. There's only one ball, and De'Aaron Fox is going to need his touches. KD, Wemby, Castle, whoever is going to be left on the roster after a deal. But I think it might fit a little bit better because he would understand this is Wemby's team, not his. But just again, just the chemistry as a whole on the team. I think chemistry between him and Wemby would be working well. But again, the touches. Somebody's had to give up some touches. And you're talking about Kevin Durant. He's a high usage player, very high usage player. So you're going to crowd that department right away. In the chemistry department, touches department. Your thoughts?
Yeah, chemistry is going to be huge when it comes to Kevin Durant. And I'm glad you brought up the shot attempts because that was going to be my negative side of things. Looking up the shot attempts, KD averages about 18.7 shot attempts a game for his career. Right now, Victor's at 17.9. I think De'Aaron Fox was at 16.9. So already you've got your 3 biggest guys that are going to be getting, the most shot attempts on the team. What does that do? Well, when Stephon Castle for his rookie year was only getting 12 attempts a game, you expect that to go down because he's going to have to go for scraps on rebounds and fast breaks. So the offense isn't necessarily going to go through him, but he's going to get less touches. Also, guys like Harrison Barnes are going to be kind of demoted a little bit to just waiting in the corner, waiting on a 3-point line, and, just hoping to get a touch here and there off of somebody driving to the basket. So I think attempts are going to be a lot less. And, these days, Jeff, the 24-second clock, players don't make a move until there's like 5-6 seconds left on the clock. So attempts are going to go down for a lot of players. I don't know if that messes so much with chemistry, but, the other part is, does Kevin Durant want to come in a Tracy McGrady, in a Dominique Wilkins, guys that used to score the ball at will and used to have the ball in their hand? They're so used to it towards the twilight of their career, came into teams and were used, as scorers, but didn't get the same shot attempts and looks that they had in their previous seasons in the league. So it just depends. Is KD willing to just come in and say, okay, I'm here to score. I'm here to help. My shot attempts may go down to 15, 14 a game. I understand it's Victor's team. I understand De'Aaron runs the team. So I may get shots here and there. I'm going to be asked to score 25, 26 a night every now and then, but I'm okay with the 17, 16 points a night as well. So chemistry is going to be huge. The other factor is, again, he's at the end of his career, basically. Does he still want another payday? Because again, it's about the financials here.
Sure.
You got great trade pieces where you can make the money work. But when Victor's up for that max, when Steph's up for that max, will KD be done by then? How are you going to go about that? That's more of a lesser concern. But for me, it's the shot attempts. You're going to see other guys' shot attempts go down where you're hoping that they would either increase or stay at the right point right there. So that's my biggest one.
Yeah, and then one, I guess it'd be negative, I suppose, and if this applies to both KD and Giannis, is what if they lose out? The Spurs lose out to a Houston in a trade for either of the guys, or Minnesota, or picking a Western Conference team. Then again, the Spurs are again that step behind again. So let's just pretend it's Houston. Houston, they're kind of flipped. They have great young players, minimal draft picks. So let's just say Phoenix prioritizes young players versus picks. Then you bring in a KD to Houston. That's a division team right there. That's a team you got to pay play 4 times a year, and they already got KD. Minnesota, what if they say, the Ant needs help? We got to trade for somebody. Kevin Durant names pops up. There's another Western Conference team you got to face about 3 to 4 times a season. So, and of course, vice versa, it's Giannis in that situation in Houston. So there's another reason why, if the Spurs want to look at this situation with KD or Giannis and make a deal, again, not keeping up with the Joneses, but just staying competitive in a very tight West. So there's that as well. All right. So we looked at both players, the good and the bad. So how should the Spurs proceed? We're going to talk about that coming up next. We're here on Locked On Spurs with Rudy Campos of Sweep the League. Make sure to follow him on X at Sweep the League. You want to do that right now. And we're back right here on Locked On Spurs, joined by Mr. Rudy Campos of Sweep the League. He is on X at Sweep the League, and he has a YouTube show. We'll talk about that in just a few minutes. All right. So we looked at a little bit of the pros, a little bit of the cons for each players. Should the Spurs proceed? Rudy, you're the guest. You get the first crack at this. How you thinking this should happen?
I'll just say that if I have to pick one of the guys, which I know I do, I'll name him here. But at the end of the day, I'm probably not trading for neither one. I'm kind of looking elsewhere, in my opinion. But for Locked On sakes, it's gonna be probably Giannis. I think at the end of the day, the Spurs, they need scoring, but I think they can get You're going to get a full season of De'Aaron Fox, who can score the ball. You've got a shooter in, Harrison Barnes. I think with Giannis, you're probably going to give up either Harper or Castle. So you're going to give up not the farm, but you're going to give up a future prospect. So I'm okay with that, bringing in an MVP candidate a year in, year out. I think 2-time MVP, NBA Finals player. The defensive side of the ball is what I really like where this team goes, because Giannis and Victor protecting the paint, being a nuisance in the paint, it'll actually free up Victor to do what he does best, or does what he likes to do, and that's shoot the ball from the perimeter. So I think I'm going more with Giannis because also I can get the longevity when it comes to his career. I still have a lot more years with Giannis than I feel I would with KD. But ultimately, truth be told, Jeff, I would not do a deal for either one. Just FYI.
Yeah. If I had to do it, again, we're in this universe of a what if right now. If they were going to do it, I'm with you. You go with Giannis. That's a generational player, still just in his peak, not in Kevin Durant's situation, maybe coming down already. So there's that. There's a little bit more longevity with Giannis. Yes, it's going to suck having to pay that sticker price. But for me, the line is they can't give up both. They cannot give up the number 2 pick, which likely would be Harper, and Castle. At the moment Milwaukee brings that up, we're done, or at least trying it all over again. Yeah. I'm hanging up the phone. I'm going to put it down and say, come back with a better deal, hang it up. I think that's the line for me there. I'm okay with giving up multiple picks because the Spurs are not going to use them all. They're not going to be able to draft every single one first and second rounds they have in the future. So use some of those. Let's maximize those. Yes, if it costs of the sell, Sohan in the process, you do it. This is Giannis Antetokounmpo. This is who we're talking about right here. You bring that guy to San Antonio, no matter what you're doing. So again, yes, explore, be aggressive, Spurs. Talk to Milwaukee. Yes, get ready to bite the bullet, maybe. But if they want Castle and number 2 / Harper, we're done. We're not talking about it. But if I had to pick one, I would go with Giannis. All right, that's who we think the Spurs should trade if they were going to make a deal for either one of these 2 All-Stars. What do you think? Let Rudy know on X at Sweeps the League. Let me know by going to Locked On Spurs YouTube page. Leave it a comment, and perhaps we'll read that in a future episode of Locked On Spurs. All right, before we wrap up this show, Rudy, you want to talk about this rumor that's been popping up lately? The Nets trying to get the number 2 pick for Harper. It's starting to feel like to me, Rudy, that maybe Harper is the better prospect than Flagg, because it seems like teams want Dylan in their team colors. But what do you think about this new rumor that popped up? Nets are just pretty much, at least according to these rumors, they want Harper in their black and white uniform.
Yeah, and, I think it's safe to say that it's probably not going to happen. The Nets would have to give up a lot, and you were talking about, I think one of the scenarios was Cam Johnson, the number 8 pick, and then either 26 or 27, which wouldn't be bad. I mean, it wouldn't be a really bad pick because Cam Johnson does fill a need for the Spurs at the small forward spot, and then you're getting a number 8 pick where you may have a chance at a Trey Johnson, you may have a chance at a Concanepo, or somebody of that. Plus, you got your 14th pick and then another late first round pick. So you're really rounding out the whole team. But at the end of the day, it's a deal that's probably not going to happen. I don't see Brooklyn. Actually, I don't see Brooklyn making that deal at all because the Spurs are going to want a pretty good amount in return.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, a lot of people are wanting Dylan Harper on their team. Remember, Jeff, back in October, I said, Harper was my number 1 prospect, and it hasn't changed. It's Harper, Bailey, and Cooper Flagg right now. So keep in mind, Dallas is set on taking Flagg. Their fans are set on taking Flagg, but who knows? I mean, they are going to do their homework and due diligence when it comes to Harper as well. So a lot of teams want Dylan Harper. You're going to hear a lot of talk, a lot of chatter, maybe some, goofball trades that we'll see on X here are going to pop up for this and this. But real quick, at the end of the day, Spurs fans got to keep in mind, this team is projecting to be high. They were literally 5 games out of the last play-in spot. A lot of these teams above them are going to get worse in the offseason. So I think getting a guy maybe like Harper, getting, that 14th pick, adding a player and 2 players in mind. One of them is up for a deal right now. He's on the block. Is Vucevic when it comes to Chicago. You're talking to 18 points, 10 rebound type of guy. Fits perfect right next to Victor. You get Vucevic, you're talking 8 seed, maybe 7 seed in the West because you have 2 big guys. Hello, Oklahoma City, Hardenstein and Chet. You need a 2 big guy duo that's very versatile. I think somebody like that makes more sense going after a superstar and you're winning some of these picks because Spurs are projecting very, very high.
Yeah, exactly. I think a report recently came out saying that a Spurs exec said, "We are back." So you can underline that and highlight that if they were to bring in a Vucevic, or I even say a Brook Lopez. I think a Brook Lopez would fit in perfectly too as well.
There's a lot of
veteran, a guy who can be a bruiser and has expanded his game to the 3 line, and he's not that bad as a 3-shot shooter. So I mean, he's not Steph Curry, but then again, who is? But again, for a big man, he definitely can stretch the floor. But if you were to say Lopez is coming to San Antonio or Vucevic is coming to San Antonio, oh no, not that. It's a win-win. So we're
the
fine.
Fans would hate it, but the true basketball minds would understand that is the perfect move for this team.
Exactly. And circling back to Harper, you kind of alluded to too. Is it just my feeling that I feel like everybody's kind of cooling down on Flagg? You remember pre-draft, pre-lottery, it was Flagg this and Flagg that, generational. You heard that word, it slapped on him. Now it doesn't feel like it's there anymore. It feels like he's just going to be a pretty good player.
No, I mean, we can't sell it short. He's going to be a superstar in the league. Yeah. And there's no doubt he's going to be an all-star. He's going to be a player that makes a difference and an impact right away. He's going to be a great basketball player. He's not generational. I mean, we've seen his style of play before. You've got a lot of guys, including myself, that compared him to, a guy like Andre Karolinko, stuff like that. Guys that don't, they're not jumping off the page as, oh my, why are you number one if you're talking about him? It's his style of play. His style of play fits the NBA. He had a great run against the Olympic team when they had those trials and those scrimmages against them. So he can definitely play. He's not generational, but he's going to be an all-star. He might even be a superstar. I think he'll be superstar at one point, but Cooper Flagg is who you get. And that's why I have him at 3. I think he has a little bit of improvement. Harper is NBA ready. He's ready to go now. He's going to improve some out of the 3. Ace Bailey has that, limitless right now. He's got so much more potential that you can see. But you're right. The talk on Cooper Flagg is kind of cooled down, and maybe because it's kind of solidified that Dallas is going to take him. So there's really not much more to talk about, and all the talk is surrounding Dylan Harper at number 2 right now.
Can you imagine if Dallas selects Harper number 1 and the fan backlash at Nico for not taking Flagg?
I can. And what's serious about and sad and serious about the same thing here is it makes a lot of sense for Dallas to take Harper because Kyrie is injured. He's out. Yeah. Dallas has a plethora of big men that would run hand in hand and make life a lot easier for Dylan Harper. I mean, he can get to the basket. He can, pop it out to AD for a 3. He can have a lot of guys like Lively cutting to the basket. Remember the old Jason Kidd, Tyson Chandler connection back in the day? You would see a lot more of that. Dylan Harper is not Kyrie Irving. He's not going to look to, dribble the ball 17 seconds out of the shot clock to get to a shot or something like Luka does. He's a different type of athlete, a different type of player. If Dallas takes him 1, the fan backlash is going to be huge, but it makes sense for the future type of pick. So I don't know what's going to happen. There's no real clear cut other than, fans and some people saying Flagg is number 1. I still think there's an outside chance that Dallas may do something crazy.
Can you imagine that happens and Flagg ends up in San Antonio, a player that you said fits better than Harper does in San Antonio? But man, I mean, Nico's going to have like round the clock security that happens. Seriously, he won't be able to alleviate that until the actual ball goes up in the air. And then it shows that, hey, Harper does run better with these bigs in Dallas. I mean, imagine him and AD. I mean, yikes.
Yeah. Dylan Harper fits in San Antonio, but between Flagg and Bailey, both of those guys fill the glaring need for the Spurs. And that's at that small forward, power forward position. You don't really know what you have in Jeremy right now. You see a little bit of improvement, but when you get an instant impact, the guy like Harper, like Bailey or Flagg, they both fit in San Antonio's system a lot better. But I mean, at the end of the day, you take the best player available, the best prospect available, that's going to help your team. So if it's Harper, I mean, let me get the box of tissues and wipe away my tears because it's so sad we got Dylan Harper.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Oh no, Dallas, you got Harper. Or no, San Antonio, you got a Flagg. But look, crazier things have happened in the NBA draft. You don't know, but it looks like Flagg was likely to go number 1 to Dallas. But man, I can only dream can only dream, because when I look at Flagg, I'm like, yeah, he checks more boxes off than Harper does in San Antonio right now. And that's to say Harper's not a bad player, but it's to say, if you're looking at just a smarter pick, it's Flagg for San Antonio and Harper for Dallas. It's almost flip-flopped. Really is. And that should be the order. But, I got to say that topic about Bailey, because there has some few Locked On Spurs fans leave comments recently saying, when y'all going to do a show about Bailey? I just didn't think about him because I don't think he's going to be a number 2 pick.
Should be. He should be.
We'll definitely save that topic for you, hopefully next week here at Locked On Spurs. He is Rudy Campos of Sweep the League. Follow him on X as Sweep the League. Tell us about your show on YouTube.
Yeah, so if you go to YouTube, search Sweep the League TV, you can hit that subscribe button. We're running the 24-hour type of show, so all of our past content and then some new content that comes up with Grading the Market and other shows that we have come up from time to time. We also added our Sweep the League radio on TikTok, so we'll be kicking that off. We're on a little bit of a hiatus, but it's going to slowly start to come back, trying to get schedules, trying to get other hosts that we are talking to involved, so that way the content just comes, at you like a tidal wave and you're not missing on anything. So the best 2 places to go: YouTube, Sweep the League TV, hit the subscribe, and then also on TikTok, follow us at Sweep the League Radio.
Do that ASAP, everybody. Follow Rudy. The best way to do it is just on X. There you'll get all the links and what you need at Sweep the League. Rudy, we thank you for closing out the week here at Locked On Spurs. I think you opened up the week, right? And then you close it out.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, do that. He booked in this week here at Locked On Spurs. Again, we always appreciate you coming on here. And by the way, thank you for doing video. So I didn't want to jinx it. You notice that in the text? I never asked you, is it audio or video? I just said, okay.
And then you said, well, you can go early. I said, oh, well, I'm I go early.
Video is difficult during the work week. But,
and I do have notes, Jeff, just FYI, for the comment that was left on YouTube. I studied all night. I was up till 5 a.m. studying all these notes that I need to study for.
Every time you come on, man, somebody has a fire shot at it every single time. Rudy, again, thank you. We appreciate you as always. Everybody else, we thank y'all for making Locked On Spurs your first listen every single day. Free and available wherever we get podcasts, iTunes, Spotify, Kens 5 Plus app, YouTube. Leave a comment on the YouTube page. Subscribe as well. We'll read that comment on a future episode of Locked On Spurs. And thanks for making Locked On Spurs your first and only spot for all things San Antonio Spurs. You guys are the everydayers. Second listen, check out Locked On NBA Big Board, NBA Draft Expert Rafael Barlow reacts every workout, interview, rumor leading up to the NBA Draft. Find Locked On NBA Big Board on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. We'll be back next week on Monday, talk all things silver and black as the Spurs offseason continues. So for Rudy Campos, I am Jeff Garcia. We're going to put a lock on this episode of Locked On Spurs.